hot topic, Bitcoin. Now, I'm a huge believer on Bitcoin. It's no buts. The reason is because fiat currency, the US dollar, is garbage, toilet paper. We are a much bigger version of Greece. The only saving grace we have two. One, we can add unlimited zeros to our ledger, or print money as they call it. Number two, US dollar is the reserve currency of the world. Although it's losing, the BRICS, the Japanese, they're kind of figuring out, you know what? I mean, this is a game they're playing. We're eating this game. Every year, whatever assets we're holding in dollar-denominated assets are losing value 5 to 7%. I think we had enough. I talked about it in the past, how they're selling our treasuries as well, reducing their treasury holdings. So Bitcoin, on the other hand, is finite. There's about 21 million of these things out there. And about 19 million have been already mined. Okay. Now, tomorrow, if somebody comes and says, or Satoshi comes and says, oh, by the way, I just created another 20 million Bitcoin, we're all screwed. All the believers in Bitcoin, specifically Michael Saylor, he'll be bankrupt, of MicroStrategy, who's mortgaging his company with convertible bonds and buying Bitcoin at every price, any price. Largest holder of Bitcoin as a corporate entity. And but I do believe in Bitcoin, right? Because number one, I think it's an inflation hedge, because you can't create more of this thing. You just can't. The other coins, I'm not sure. I don't want to talk about it. But Bitcoin, I believe in. I have some Bitcoin. I will add Bitcoin. However, over the weekend and last week, we had like a pretty nasty drawdown, right? Actually, last night I was watching. I actually bought more Bitcoin last night, tiny little bit, on Robinhood actually. So the Bitcoin went from 70,000, which was about, I don't know, 2 weeks ago. I think on the low end, I saw it as low as 53,000. And I was like, wow, okay, we're cracking 58 now. 58 was a low. And as soon as it cracked 58,000, it just dropped solid 10% in about, less than 24 hours. So there are reasons for it. So I want to talk to you guys about what the reasons are and what I think of Bitcoin. Well, at the end, I'll tell you guys if I'm still a believer in Bitcoin, but I think I just said it anyway. So what happens is that, there's a lot of shady people out there that when they do illegal stuff, specifically in the dark web and stuff like that, they exchange Bitcoins. That's how they want to get paid. Or somebody hacks into something, they take your computer, ransom, and they want Bitcoin. They don't want US dollars. They don't want traceability, right? So, but what happens is that on our end as well, actually one of my really closest friends is a US Marshal who goes and confiscates a lot of people's homes, all these Ponzi scheme guys and whatever not. And he tells me, Sergio, we're getting a lot of Bitcoin now. Okay. I'm like, okay, that makes sense. So in order to get the victims to get the money of these Ponzi schemes and victims, how do they get their money? Is the Bitcoin has to be sold and turned into currency, fiat currency of the country. Like in this case, the US and German governments have sent $738 million in Bitcoin to exchanges over the last 2 weeks. So I talked about that actually 2 weeks ago, that there was a massive short position created right at 70,000 at Bitcoin. The reason is the people who knew this was coming, they shorted Bitcoin on the futures market, and then they're profiting from it now, obviously. And I talked about how to short things last week with you guys, irregardless of what the asset class is, right? You sell first, buy back later. So there is a lot more of this story, though. It's not just 738 million that's coming to market. The US government, German government, all the governments who are confiscating Bitcoin after they nail these bad characters have to sell it, right? So that's creating a little bit more selling pressure. But again, once that's absorbed, which it will, because we have the ETFs now, wonderful ETFs by Fidelity, BlackRock, all these massive companies who have created these ETFs, exchange traded funds, that are absorbing the supply. But price obviously will fluctuate. And the other thing that's happening is that, and German and US governments have recently sent 738 million to Bitcoin exchanges, including Coinbase, Bitstamp, Kraken, And Germany makes up about 3/4 of that total, which is deposits spread across 30 different transactions. So they're selling Bitcoin. Well, if it's selling, short term, it's going to create some pressure, right? We talked about that. Don't make it complicated, stupid, right? Keep it simple. How does that work? More supply, less demand, and the buyers are going to be more, discriminatory. I mean, they see the $700 million worth of Bitcoin coming to be sold. What are they going to do? They're going to, yeah, I'm going to pay you 70,000. No, you're going to discount the price, take it down to 55, absorb all that, and then price will go back to where it's supposed to go, find its balance. But at the moment, it's out of balance. There's more sellers than buyers, basically. While it's unclear whether all the Bitcoin was actually sold, well, it doesn't have to be, but then this is on a ledger. That's why I also love Bitcoin, because every transaction is on the ledger and it's public info, right? You can figure all this out. And the local authorities in Germany had previously seized Bitcoin via various criminal cases, including pirate portal movie 2K. I don't know that about in Germany, but I know it happens quite a bit here. My friend in the Marshal Service, who does go confiscate people's homes and things like that from Ponzi scheme dudes, they do that. So if you were part of that scheme, you're going to get some money now. I'm sure, but the bigger part of this picture that's coming in. And so you look at this chart. I love putting charts for you guys. So because I have a photographic memory. I like looking at pictures more than read stuff. So you guys notice there is these circles on the right-hand side of the chart, okay? And all those circles happen right before Bitcoin price took off, okay? So over the past 2 weeks, Germany has sent 7,828 BTC Bitcoin, right, to exchanges. That Bitcoin was altogether valued at 496 million, and there was more Bitcoin sent by the US government. Together, this article is kind of saying that, are they trying to pick the top? There is no top. What are they talking about? But if you guys look at those circles, right? The circles happen at a point that supply shows up from government entities, from whoever it is. It's not, these are all government law enforcement agencies who are nailing these people and confiscating their Bitcoin and coming in, turning it into cash to return it to their victims, right? So if you guys notice, there was a tiny little circle halfway through the chart, and what happened to the Bitcoin price after that? Oh, it went up. There was a second one, bigger circle with a purple, and then underneath it there was an orange one. That's when Bitcoin kind of went sideways, right? And that's the price at that time was about 25,000, so 30,000 level. Of course, it puts pressure on the market. I mean, there's more sellers than buyers, right? And Bitcoin, by the way, is not hundreds of trillions of dollars of float out there, just like just like the US dollar is. So then what happened though? Massive leg up, 30, because once that pressure was released, massive leg up to 30 to 70,000. Now, two bigger circles come into play. US is the orange circle and Germany is the purple circle. They're selling up there. Well, that's why we had a crack on Bitcoin from 70,000 to 53,000. It's about 56,000 now. But there is one more shoe to drop. So if you guys are going to go buy Bitcoin, don't rush until you listen to what I'm trying to say here. So one other thing that actually I'm going to talk about Mt. Gox. Mt. Gox is a bankrupt exchange, right? Just like Coinbase is. And they were, once they went bankrupt, when they went bankrupt, by the way, this case has been going on. It's from Japan, by the way. This case has been going on, I think, since 2016, 8 years. Bitcoin then was $600. Okay, no joke. Now Bitcoin, let's say, is $56,000, $55,000 a coin, right? So throughout all this time, finally, all these people are going to be made whole. How? They're going to be sent their Bitcoin that they thought they lost 8 years later. But when they lost the Bitcoin, I mean, this is one of the few bankruptcies that ends up as a profit, as a massive best investment these people have ever made by investing in or trading in Mt. Gox and going bankrupt, the company going bankrupt. Initially, your thought is, oh my God, my fortune is gone, my money is gone, what am I going to do? But 8 years later, you're getting Bitcoin. Well, then you thought you lost it at $600. Now it's at $55,000, and this is a lot of Bitcoin, by the way. So Mt. Gox's doomsday scenario involves Bitcoin Cash, not Bitcoin. I disagree. I think it's both BCH and BCT. So fears that selling pressure from bankruptcy redemptions from the estate of Mt. Gox will drive down the price of Bitcoin is unfounded, says one analyst. But it could be a bearish scenario for Bitcoin Cash. Bitcoin price continues to dip below 60,000. One hit 54,000 last night overnight, with over 200 million in liquidations as the trading day began in Asia. And that's why that happened, by the way, the little dip that you guys are seeing. So the German government selling, US government selling, Mt. Gox, creditors are receiving that Bitcoin and they're selling. In addition to the roughly $9.5 billion in BTC, the former exchange will send back to its customers. So if you're a customer that you thought you lost everything at Mt. Gox and Bitcoin was 600,000, and let's say you had one single Bitcoin at Mt. Gox, right? Well, it was at 600, you thought you lost 600. Now it's at 56,000. I mean, you're going to get one Bitcoin back. What would you do? Would you sell it? Would you keep it? Well, most people are saying they're going to sell it. That's why the pressure is also coming in. But they're also going to receive Bitcoin Cash, BCH, and on top of BTC. So $9.5 billion compared to what the German government and the US government selling is like 12x. So that's a lot. Now, nobody will know if all that $9.5 billion that's being returned to the Mt. Gox customers are going to be liquidated. I don't think it will. Some people will keep it, but then some people will sell it, saying, thank God. And a mistake they did by investing with a company that went bankrupt has turned into be the best investment they probably have ever made. And one last thing about this Bitcoin, and about the miners, right? I talk about miners. My two favorites actually, was Marathon and CleanSpark. They have the highest hash rates. So this chart caught my eye, which I think, so this is going to make my case about Bitcoin, right? So Bitcoin bottom is near as miners capitulating near FTX. FTX is, Sam Bankman-Fried, who's in jail for 30 years now. And on that bankruptcy, by the way, everybody became also whole and actually more. So, but, know who you're investing with. Miner capitulation levels are now comparable with those at the end of 2022, which was the market bottom after the FTX implosion, okay? So you guys see these two charts, right? The one on the left is at 7.7%. That's the miners are either hedging or selling their Bitcoin, because miners are always producing Bitcoin, right? Through their NVIDIA graphic chip computers, right? And look where we are today. So after each halving, which we just had one in April, a 3 months ago, this happens, okay? So looking at this, looking at the German selling, looking at the US government selling, looking at the Mt. Gox settlement, and people are getting their Bitcoins finally either to liquidate or not, there definitely is a lot of supply that just showed up, right? And the market's adjusting itself to 54,000, 50. Could it go to 50,000? Could it go to 45? It probably could, because it's a volatile market. Anything is possible. But the Bitcoin miner capitulation metrics are approaching the same level as the market bottom following FTX crash in 2022. Daily miner revenue, because there are those two miners that I talked about, MARA is a symbol and CLSK, CleanSpark, are the best two miners with the highest hash rates. But everybody else that's inefficient is going to go away, right? Either they're going to consolidate or they're going to have to shut down productions because they're unprofitable due to the halving. Daily miner revenue has dropped to 29 million from 79 million following the Bitcoin halving earlier this year. The hash rate has slumped. That's the rate that they mine Bitcoin at, and by 7.7%, as inefficient miners turn off their equipment. So the cream is going to rise to the top, and the shit's going to go away. Looking at this chart, and my conclusion is, like I said, I bought a tiny little Bitcoin on Coinbase. If you do buy Bitcoin, make sure you have a cold wallet and take it out. From Coinbase, I don't think you can, but I bought so little that it didn't make a difference. But from other exchanges, when I do buy, I make sure I buy on exchanges that I can transfer the Bitcoin into my cold wallet. I don't want to leave it on an exchange like these people did at Mt. Gox, and then 7 years later they're getting money. But then I'm going like, what are the odds, right? I mean, why should I even wait for my money for 7 years? So I'm still a believer in Bitcoin. I think these little sell-offs for all these fundamental reasons are going to come and go. So my bottom line is everybody should own about 10% of their wealth in Bitcoin because the US dollar is trash.